Hello everyone. In this video we'll be talking about basic SharePoint apps development, and particularly we'll concentrate on how to develop a basic app that is of type SharePoint hosted apps. So in this video, the main mode of this video is like we'll be covering what are the different types of errors generally we'll get while deploying or developing the basic SharePoint hosted app. So instead of just giving the list of errors, what I'll do is I'll start developing the app and I'll try to cover all types of errors which will occur, so that while developing apps you can avoid occurring all those types of errors. So let's go ahead and do the first app. So to develop apps you need to have one basic site which is of developers type site. So to create that, I have went to central administration. Under application management, click on create site collections. Under create site collections, I am giving for my site as app development, description as app development, and the site is app development. So here I am choosing a site of type developer site. So this site for developers to build, test and publish apps. Here I'm saying administrator. I'm giving the primary site collection administrator as administrator, and for the time being, so what I did was I created already one site collection which is of developer site. If I go back here, view all site collections, here if you see I already created the root site with the name of app development, and it's stored in SharePoint Journey content database. So let me open the site. This is my site where I'm going to deploy my basic app. Okay, so to develop a basic app we'll use Visual Studio 2012, and which is having the developers tools which already installed in it. Let me open my Visual Studio 2012, and here I'm going to create a new project for creating a basic SharePoint hosted app. To create that, under office/SharePoint section, I'll choose apps. Under this I'll click on app for SharePoint 2013. Here what I'll do is I'll name it as my first app. I'm clicking on OK. It will initiate the wizard. Here I can see my app name. If I want to change, I can change it, and to which web I'm going to deploy this particular app. So here it is, SharePointJourney.com. I'm just trying to check whether that particular site is exist or not. Yes, connection is successful. We were able to connect to SharePointJourney.com. and here what is the type of hosting mechanism we are going to use. Here I'm using SharePoint hosted method. So what are the app which I'm going to deploy and develop, it will be in SharePoint site. So let me click on finish. It is going to create a project called my first app. Give a moment, it's trying to create the project. So it has created the project. To see the project, go to view, Solution Explorer, This is where my first app project which has been created, where I can see the feature, the basic feature, where I have the pages, scripts which are required for that, and the content which are required for that, images, all those information. Under the content I have CSS files, and under images just app icon. Under the pages I have default.aspx page, which is my app host site page, app web page, and here element.xml, this is the page, and under the scripts this is the main script app.js where the logic has been written. So I come back to this logic once I deploy successfully this app. So now everything is ready. If I see the properties of this particular app which is getting deployed to SharePointJourney.com, so let me try to deploy this app. I'm just rebuilding it, just checking. Rebuild is successed. I'll try to deploy it. To see the status, I'll go to view, output window, I can see that the status is one failed. Okay, what is the error message? Try to redeploy it again. This is the error message. Error occurred in deployment step install app for SharePoint. The system account cannot perform this action. So with the account I'm using is a system account. Because of that is the main reason I couldn't able to deploy this particular app. So in SharePoint 2013 RTM, where you can't deploy apps using system account. So to deploy this particular app, what I have to do is I have to log in with a different account. By using that account, which is not a system account, I have to deploy it. I have one account, so I'm going to switch user from here. Let's see, I have an account called Devendra. I'll enter my password. I have everything ready. Visual Studio is already opened. Now I have to open the project which I have created. If I go here, this is my first app. I'll open this app and it is preparing the solution. Yeah, it's ready. Let me show you the solution explorer. Okay, now I'll try to deploy using other account which is not a system account. Let me try to deploy it. I have one more error here. Show you again. Let me hide the warning. Error occurred in the deployment step. Uninstall app for SharePoint cannot connect to the SharePoint site SharePointJourney.com. Make sure this is a valid URL and the SharePoint site is running on the local computer. Okay, so what it's saying is I don't have access to this particular site. So what I'll do is I'll just check from here whether I have access or not, and let me log in with my credentials. This new window. Yes. Maybe it is still keeping the credentials. Let me open in new browser. where it is asking for the credentials. I'm going to enter my credentials. See, it says that sorry, this site hasn't been shared with you. Now I need to have an access to deploy this particular site app to my site. So I'll switch it back to the administrator again. Enter the URL. So I'll open the site, and this is the new feature in SharePoint 2013 where you can just give permission to the people by clicking on the share button. And I'm trying to search. I can see Devendra, and under show options, by default it shows members, but I want to have full control access and have shared. Now here you can see that app development has been shared with Devendra. I'll go back to my account again. I just try to access Journey site again. Yeah, now I have full access. So I'll go to this solution. I'll try to deploy again. See, it still says I cannot connect to SharePoint site, that is sharepointjourney.com. Make sure this URL is valid and SharePoint site is running on your local computer. That means that even though I am able to access the site, but whatever I am trying to deploy, that app is not going to sit in the host site, that is host web. So what I have to do is I have to give permission from the database level so that it makes sure that I can deploy this particular app onto this site using credentials of Devendra, which is not a system account. So go back to how I can verify that. Probably I can check the SQL server, connect to the SQL server, and if I go to the security section, logins, user mappings, you might have seen, like, from the central admin, the content database for that particular site is SharePoint journey underscore content database. This is what I was talking about. Go to application management, view all site collection. This is the content database, but for Devendra credential I'm unable to see. That means this user doesn't have any access to deploy onto that particular site. So now I have to switch it back to administrator. Enter my super secret password. Go to the SQL server. Under logins, click on Devendra. Under this, go to user mappings, where try to find out the SharePoint journey content database and select that. Give DB owner permission. So I have given DB owner permission. Click OK, and now everything is ready. Let me go back to the normal user. Logged in. Now let me check the credentials, user mapping. See, now you can see that the SharePointJourney.com content database is available for Devendra. Cool. Now go to my Visual Studio and try to deploy this. Let me see from output window what is happening. Now I hope the installation is in progress. That means I have complete permissions so that I can deploy the app. Finally the app has been deployed. You can see the URL here, and if I want to check, I can go back to my site, just refresh this. This is my first app. Click on this to access. It is asking for the credentials. Okay, the credentials. Hooray! Now you can see here the URL will start with and the domain URL. So here you can see it displays hello system account, and this is the URL. And if I want to go back to the site, I can go back to the site which is of the app development. Okay, so from where this particular section is coming, app, that I'll show you. From the central administration, you have a newly added section called apps, from where you can configure those things. If you go to configure app URL, here you can see app domain and app prefix. So whatever the prefix you mentioned here, in my case I have mentioned app, so it is showing app, then GUI ID, then app domain as a different URL. So whenever you deploy any apps, it will completely run in a different domain, so that there will be like, it doesn't affect the performance of your site. So what are the other things I can manage once I deploy the app? Let me open the SharePoint.com. So here you can see apps testing. Once I deployed the app, it is sitting here. 2 minutes ago I have deployed it. Or what I can do is I can go to site contents, and here I have a menu where I can click it. I can see what are the details, what are the permission levels. If I want to remove it, I can remove it. Okay, now I want to show you, let me go back. I want to show you how this hello system account is coming. Let me go back to Visual Studio, and on the home page this is the message, and open the app.js, which is very important. So this will be loading whenever you load the page, document.ready. So what it does is, whenever the page loads, it will call this particular details inside this particular function. And so in the first line we are getting the current client context, then based on that we are getting current web details, then based on that we are getting current user, and loading all those details. If it is success, for this div control on default.aspx page, we are adding user title. I hope it is very much helpful.